Hi everybody, and welcome to Math for Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. Today we're going to be reviewing dividing decimals by 10, 100, and 1000. Now before you tell me we've already done this, Miss Mac, I know. We are just reviewing this because this is a pretty important concept that you'll need next year in 6th grade math, so we want to make sure you're really solid with it. Okay, so first, if I start with my whiteboard, and we just look at multiplication for a minute. Here I have 12 times 10. So if I'm going to multiply 12 times a group of 10, or a 10, I know that I can look at the 12 and I can look at the 1. 12 times 1 equals 12. And then because I'm working with a group of 10, I can just add a 0 for a product of 120. So let's take that same concept, but now let's look at division. So if I have 120 and I want to divide it by 10, if I want to work the opposite way, because I know that multiplication and division are opposite operations, they're inverse of each other, well, I know that here I added the 0, so here I can take away the 0. Take that away, and 120 divided by 10 is 12. Okay, so let's move on. Let's try another one. See if I have 10 divided by 10. Okay, take a moment. If you want, you can cross out the zeros. And we have 1 divided by 1 for a quotient of 1. Okay, so those were whole numbers, and that's a little easy. So let's try with the decimal, okay? Let's go back to our lesson from the other day with multiplication. So if I had 1/10 and I want to multiply it by 10, I would move the decimal to the right. So that would mean one spot over because I have 1 0. So my product would now be one whole number. So I went from a partial, a decimal, a part of a whole. I multiplied it by 10 and I received one whole. And I just moved the decimal from here to the right. Okay, so now let's try 5/10. If I multiply it by 10, again, I'm going to move the decimal to the right for a product of 5 wholes. The decimal moves. So if the decimal moves to the right on multiplication, and division is the opposite, which way do you think the decimal will move for division? Well, if you said to the left, then you are correct. So here we have 1/10 divided by 10. Remember, in multiplication, the decimal moves to the right. Now, because it's the opposite operation, it's going to move one space to the left. And because we need to fill that space always, we now write it as 1/100th. So 1/10 divided by 10 is 100, and this is how we answer it. Okay, so let's try again. Okay, so here I have 4 7/10, and I want to divide it by 10. Remember, the decimal moves to the Okay, let's try this one. 49 1/10 divided by 10. Take a moment. And what are you going to do? You're going to move the decimal over one place because we have a group of 10. So your quotient's going to be 4.91 or 4 91 thousandths. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, take a moment, pause the video if you have to. We're still working with one group of 10. So the decimal is going to move one space to the left for 8 902 thousandths. Okay, so let's try now with groups of hundredths. So let's look at 70 and 5/10 divided by 100. So again, with groups of 10, we're moving one space. How many spaces do you think we'll move with 100? And you're right, 2. So because we have the 2 zeros here, we have to move the decimal point to the left 2 spaces. 1, 2. So our quotient will be 705 thousandths. Let's try another one. Let's do, here we go. Okay, so we have 74 and 70 tenths, or 74 and 7 tenths, and I'm going to divide by 100. So again, moving 2 spaces to the left, which means the decimal would move from here to here, and our quotient would actually be 747 thousandths. This we can actually take away. We don't need that. That's a placekeeper. Okay, let's try again. Let's try another one. There we go. Take a moment. Pause the video if you have to. I have 837 and 1/10 divided by 100. Remember, because we have the 2 zeros, the decimal would move 2 spaces to the left. So we have 1, 2. So our quotient would be 8 and 371 thousandths. So again, we moved 1 space for the 10, 2 spaces for the 100. What do you think we would move for the thousandths? Yes, we would move 3 spaces. So let's try this. Here we have 713 with 43 hundredths divided by 1,000. Okay, and the decimal would move 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3. For a very small number. 0.71343. Okay. Now there are times where we won't just be multiplying by groups of 10, by a 10, 100, or 1,000. We'll be multiplying by a group of tens. So something like this. So what do? Well, we want to decompose it and take the factors out. So remember like what we did with multiplication. We put those brackets and we took 60. We decompose the group of 10. So we have 2 groups of 10, which I'm going to put here, and then I'm going to divide the whole bracket by 10. So let's do what's in the bracket first. 60 divided by 2 would be 30. And then I'm going to divide that 30 by 10, and I get 3. Now this worked out to be a whole number because I was working with whole numbers just to get you used to the idea and the procedure. What happens if I take whole numbers that can be divided and they end up to be decimals, such as 6 divided by 20? Right? Same thing as before. I'm going to decompose this group of 10. So I know I have 2 groups of 10. I'm going to divide that by 6. Then I'm going to take the whole amount that I have in the bracket. I'm going to take my quotient from here and divide that further down by 10. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and I'm going to divide that by 10. And remember, this would be a whole number, so the decimal would be there. And because I only have 1 0, I'm moving it one space to the left. So my quotient would actually be 3/10. Okay, just flip my page of notes. Okay, so let's try one. We have tenths divided by 40. Okay, so how many groups of 10 do I have here? 4. I have 4 groups of 10, so I'm going to put that in the bracket, and I'm going to divide that by my 8/10. Okay? And then I'm going to divide the whole thing by a group of 10. So now, if I have 8/10 divided by 4, I have 2/10. And divide that by 10. And remember, that moves over one space. I have to have a place value, a placekeeper, and I have 2/10. Let's try one more. Okay, let's work with groups of hundreds. How many groups of hundreds do I have here? I have 4. So let's break that down. And then I'm going to divide that whole group by 100. 16 divided by 4 is 4. I'm going to divide that into 100. So remember, the decimal is here, it's a whole number. And because I have 100, I'm going to move over 2 spaces, 1, 2, for a total quotient of 4 hundredths. Okay, so today, if I haven't told you already, again, with your Math in Focus book, look through it. It's going to help you through some of the questions. Here are all the examples. Your assignment today will be the Let's Practice page. However, I'm going to put that on a Google document for you so that you just have to write in your answers and then turn that in. Okay? So please use this resource, the link for your Math in Focus work textbook page. You'll have the Let's Practice page to do for your assignment, but it'll be placed on a Google document so that you can turn it into me. You won't be able to write on the Let's Practice page. So I'll already have written out all the problems for you on a Google document. If you have any questions, please email me, and have a good day.